how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Tacano Emergent Biopark in Jurassic World Evolution, a project where we're building a biologically accurate dinosaur park and preserve using mods. Before we get started, as always, Frontier, the developers of the game, they don't officially support modding, but as I also always say, modding's pretty great. If you want to kind of a fresher perspective on the game, if you want to kind of freshen things up, would highly recommend it. And right now, the modding community is really taking off. There's some incredible stuff being made, and you will see some of that in today's video. In fact, there have been some breakthroughs recently. I believe they've been recently able to edit the rigs of models, which is a huge step. Like, there's some incredible stuff going on out there. Would highly recommend. And all of the mod authors are incredibly skilled. Like they put in so much hard work and like effort into building these models and these sceneries and the animals. They've really put in so much work, and it absolutely shows. There's incredible stuff, and I'll be showing some of it off today. Some of my favorites actually. In today's episode, we're actually going to be building a couple of dromaeosaur habitats. For those of you who aren't aware, dromaeosaurs, of course, the family of dinosaurs that includes things like Velociraptor, Deinonychus, Utahraptor. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing habitats for those first two, Deinonychus and Velociraptor, not Utahraptor. Velociraptor, of course, is probably one of the most famous dinosaurs there is, thanks to Jurassic Park. Of course, not the most accurate representation of it. While they were probably small, agile predators, they were definitely a lot smaller than the movie. The usual stuff. I'm sure most of you will know by now that Velociraptor is a relatively small animal. Definitely an agile hunter. Probably couldn't hunt things as big as probably was depicted as hunting. It was famously known to have lived alongside Protoceratops. There's a really famous fossil, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, of the two animals like locked in combat, where the Protoceratops is seen like biting the arm of the Velociraptor while the Velociraptor is like clawing at it. And it's probably like preserved in time because they got caught in a sand dune. But very fascinating animals, of course, from Mongolia. And this mod that we're going to be using for both the Velociraptor and the Deinonychus is by Digital Duck, who has done some of the best mods in the Nexus. In this one, this is the Feathered Dinosaur Pack. So we've already used some of these, some of the animals in the Feathered Dinosaur Pack, namely the Struthiomimus. We've been using that all over the park, but I believe Digital Duck, they've really got like the feathering quite down really well. Like, I think the feathering in these models looks so good. Really, really cool. Very impressive stuff, honestly. Like, feathers, I imagine, are quite hard to model compared to scales, because scales are, of course, static, and like feathers, they move, they flow. There's a lot more complexity there, and I think it's a lot harder to model. But Digital Duck has done a fantastic job, especially with these two. They look so good. The Deinonychus specifically, I'm a really big fan of. And Deinonychus is probably what the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park were actually based off. They're a little bit larger, still not quite as big as the animals in the movie, but definitely quite a bit larger. They have a much chunkier head than a Velociraptor. Velociraptors actually have quite long, narrow snouts. Deinonychus have much chunkier ones. And they are both incredible, fascinating animals in real life. If you look at like the recent theories of how they behaved and stuff and how they looked, they really are like, they would have looked so incredibly majestic. Just like how we view wolves and like animals like that as these incredibly like I said, majestic predators. We probably would have seen raptors in the same way. They probably had these beautiful coats of feathers, kind of like birds of prey today. They hunted in such interesting ways. Like, they would have used their big sickle claw on the foot to kind of like pin prey down, and then they would kind of use it to balance while they're on top of them, and then use their teeth to probably take down prey and stuff like that. Just incredibly interesting animals, and definitely not really deserving of the reputation of being like kind of monstrous, because like you wouldn't call an eagle a monstrous animal. They just how they are, and they're beautiful and absolutely deserving of not just our like respect, but our awe and majesty, because they're incredible. Like, oh my god, I do this all the time. I just end up like talking about these animals with such like reverence, and I know it must get annoying, so I do apologize, but I have such an appreciation, and I know a lot of you will do too, for dinosaurs and for animals in general. And raptors, I think, imagine seeing them in real life. That would be incredible. But me going on a little bit of a weird tangent out of the way. These two animals, of course, very cool. I hope you learned a little bit about them from when you're talking about them, though I haven't really said very much. But raptors in general, very interesting. Of course, while dromaeosaurs, the group dromaeosaurs don't include the animals that one day become birds, the general idea of raptors and like specifically maniraptorans, those are the family of animals that would one day become birds. And of course, I'll talk a little bit more about that in the live section, which I actually recorded before this. So we'll discuss that a bit later. But I should actually be talking about the habitat build, which completely neglected to do. So let's talk about that. So as you can see, we've done both habitats alongside this main path here. It's a little bit tricky to build things on this elevated area because sometimes the game doesn't recognize that that's a buildable spot. Down here, we're building the Velociraptor habitat, and we're building it a lot sandier than we did the Deinonychus habitat, and I'll talk a bit about that as well in the live play section. But as you can see here, it is both habitats are, I think, quite decently spacious for the animals. They're both going to be for a pack of each animal, so that, you know, because there's quite a common assumption that dromaeosaurs lived in packs, although that's not been really necessarily proven, so to speak. So for example, with Deinonychus, they usually find lots of their bones around things like Tenontosaurus, which is an ornithopod, a much larger herbivore. And kind of the idea behind that is that, oh, it looks like these guys probably hunted in packs to bring down a Tenontosaurus. That's one valid hypothesis. The other valid hypothesis is that they might have done that kind of like how Komodo dragons occasionally team up and hunt larger prey, but they don't really do it in like a coordinated way. They just kind of notice a shared opportunity and they go for it. And they'll stay out of each other's way, but they wouldn't like cooperate actively. So it could have been that as well, but either one is relatively valid at this point. So both of them are going to get pack habitats. So you can see we're using lots of new scenery as well, new foliage, new rocks. Incredible stuff, all by Danny Bob. Link in the description to their profile. So many great stuff, like so many incredible rocks, foliage. These new prehistoric plants are great. The small rock clusters, the little bones scattered around. So good. Highly, highly recommend. Do check them out in the description. This rock arch looks so good, I think. It just lives so much interest in the habitat. The only thing, of course, is that the dinosaurs can kind of phase through the rocks and stuff because of the small hitboxes. I don't think there's really a way around that, but my personal way to avoid that is to make tiny circles of fences and stuff around the rocks so that the dinosaurs can't access them. As long as it stays hidden, it's pretty okay. These new plants are my favorite, so prehistoric looking and so good. Big fan. They look a bit like monkey puzzle trees. I'm not sure if that's what they're meant to be. I forgot what it says in the mod page, but also monkey puzzle trees are just some of my favorite trees. So prehistoric looking and great. Anyways, we're coming up to the end of the time-lapse section. I'm sorry if I've been talking a little bit fast today. It's kind of late in the night when I'm recording this, and I'm just in a bit of a weirdly loopy state. I think I'm just a bit tired, so I'm probably going to go to bed after this. But thanks so much for watching the time-lapse section. We're about to hop into the live play. We're going to talk a little bit more about the habitats, about the dinosaurs and stuff like that. And then, yeah, that'll be it for the episode. So hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the live section. Alright, here we are in the game, and as you can see, we're just looking at the park from above, and it's really starting to get quite fleshed out, I think. I'm quite pleased with how it's looking. As you can see, it's getting quite big. Of course, we have the Rex paddock over here, one of the larger ones, the some of the bigger herbivore paddocks, like back here, with the Allosaurus, and then over here we have, of course, the Belor, which we haven't seen in a while, so let's have a little look at them. They're just hanging out, and they're appropriate to look at because, of course, we are looking at some raptors today. And down here we have the Zelmoxies, the little beachside resort, well, lakeside resort type situation. Some grass there for some reason. Who knows why. I'll fix that later. Back over here we have the Compies, of course, just hanging out, enjoying their little pond habitat with the lovely large rock over there. Some of the earlier habitats, of course. Oh, the little Triceratops is asleep over here. with an eye open. That's a little bit terrifying, but still adorable nonetheless. Beautiful animals. And of course, some of our earlier habitats back here with the iguanodon and the, was it iguana? No, sorry, the Maiasaura and the Styracosaurus. Looking great, of course, back here. Over here, of course, we just have the entrance area and our first ever habitat with the Borealopelta and the herd of Struthiomimus over there. And I believe we have a couple Pachycephalosaurus, which are somewhere in this habitat. It's a pretty big habitat. It's like generally quite large, and there's our Pachycephalosaurus. Just enjoying themselves, just a pair of them. But yeah, one of the bigger habitats as well, and it's quite nice, I think, this earlier area to see how many mods we have, like how much it has grown really. Like if you look back here, we didn't have very many scenery mods. We had like some of the bigger rocks and then these like low-lying ferns and stuff like that, but not much at all. Then if you turn around and you look at like how far things have come, it's crazy. We have like fallen logs, the big ferns now in the Daspletosaurus habitat. You know, the different rocks we have now, like the little clusters of rocks. It's really come so far. The modding community is incredible. Between episodes, I actually made this lovely little rocky area underneath the monorail entrance. I think it turned out pretty nice. The pillars look like they're built into the rocks here. We've got some of these new plants from Danny Bob, of course. Danny Bob's work, always incredible, perfect, like scenery, perfect for the genre, I think, for like this whole prehistoric sandbox type vibe. Lovely prehistoric plants, and they just all fit in so well. Really great work with the little crates. Everything, almost all the scenery mods are going to be by Danny Bob. Of course, we have some of the earlier ones, like the ferns by Zach and a couple others here and there. But, you know, I'll mention them as we see them. And of course, links to all the mod authors are in the description as always. Now, today we'll look at the two habitats here. Of course, today's video is going to be a bit longer. We did do two whole habitats. And of course, we're now looking at them in live play. So on the right, we have the Deinonychus habitat. Or on the left, we have the Velociraptor habitat. As you can see just from an overview, you can see they are somewhat different. The Deinonychus one is going to be a lot grassier. It is likely they lived in slightly more forested areas. Whereas with the Velociraptor, it can be argued they lived in slightly drier climates. They were, of course, found in Mongolia. And it's a little bit hard to say because, of course, the landscape in the past would have been tremendously different. But we, of course, don't know. It might still have been quite dry. But it could also have been quite rainforesty. But, it is relatively reasonable to assume that they lived in somewhat of a sandy environment because, of course, we found fossils that were trapped, likely due to like sand dunes collapsing and stuff like that, like the famous fighting fossil of the Protoceratops and the Velociraptor. That's a pretty cool one, and the theory behind that is they got trapped in a sand dune that collapsed. So pretty cool, I think. Both of these mods, of course, are Digital Duck's Feathered Dinosaur Pack mods. Great stuff, by the way. Loving these new trees. They're just so good. Love them so much. Danny Bob did a brilliant job. And the Velociraptors, I think, look so good in here. Of course, they're a bit larger than what you would necessarily expect from a Velociraptor. We can't really edit sizes in the game quite yet. These are still, they still remain the size of the Jurassic Park Velociraptors. In real life, Velociraptors were significantly smaller. But I'm not too fussed, mainly because in Jurassic World Evolution, the scaling is kind of off in general. Like, everything's a little bit too big anyways compared to, like, the humans in-game. So I'm not too fast. These are about the size of a Utahraptor, I would say. So while we don't have a Utahraptor, you can always just assume that these are some Dromaeosaurid that are that large. But I'm happy to just assume they're Velociraptors and just follow them along for this. Just ignoring the size of the guess, basically. Because they are so beautiful and so well done. They have one of these issues that some mods have, where if you look at them in the shadow, they almost entirely disappear and black out, which is really odd. But then if you look at them in the light, you can really see the beauty of the coloration, and the feathers are done so well, especially in the tail. I really love how the tails look. Gorgeous model here. Really like how it's done. Love the new skull shape, which is an option you can actually get when you download. You can when you download this mod, you can actually opt for a more realistic skull shape such as this, or the standard Jurassic Park skull shape. So I quite appreciate the use of both. So I think these look pretty good. I just used all the colorations here, all the different varieties, because they're not too different from each other. They just look like different individuals of the same species. And sometimes you see variation like this in birds anyway, so I think it looks fine. You can just assume like we have a couple, like, say, normal type patterning on a female, maybe a couple different morphs, like you know how reptiles have different morphs and stuff like that, and then you could have like a melanistic version, for example. So you can really explain the different skins pretty well. Of course, they're all hanging out here. Tails just poking through the fence, probably not safe with all these guests around. You know, someone's going to try and pet it, and then they'll lose an arm or something. So, you know, not the safest. Here, of course, we have the Deinonychus, and these guys are really beautiful. I gotta say, in the base game, I can almost definitely say, outside of that main campaign, I never once even laid a finger on the Deinonychus from the base game. It is quite possibly my least favorite model, my least favorite creature in the entire game, period. That base game Deinonychus is awful. It genuinely is so bad. I'm not a fan. I know some people like it, but they just went way too far with the speculative nature of it. They made it look like some weird tadpole hybrid thing. And I get it, you know, Jurassic Park dinosaurs, all hybrids, etc., but they took it way too far with that one, and it just looks so bad. Sorry, Frontier. I do love the you know, the work you put into the game, and I love so much of the dinosaurs and stuff. Even in the base game, Suchomimus, one of the best designs, period. But that base game Deinonychus, ooh, I cannot stand it. I am so sorry, but I can't. But this modded Deinonychus is beautiful, so good. It really gives me kind of like, ooh, very intimidating there, but it kind of gives me the vibes of like a large bird of prey, like a raptor. Well, it is a raptor, but you know, like a modern day raptor, like a hawk or an eagle, or maybe even like a big owl or something like that. And at the same time, it kind of feels almost a bit like a wolf with the coloration and stuff. And I think that's kind of what they were in real life. They were like, if you scaled up a raptor, like an eagle or something, to the size of a wolf and took away its flight, that's probably kind of what it would be. Like, considering, you know, of course, it's such a weird thought, because raptors, modern day raptors like birds and eagles, are also dinosaur raptors, because birds, of course, are dinosaurs taxonomically. But then if you like extrapolate that even further, birds are maniraptorans, and so modern day raptors are also raptors in a different sense. Raptors are raptors. Quite an interesting thought, I think. But yeah, I love this habitat. I like how it eases up here. I love how the new scenery looks. The new trees are beautiful. So good, so prehistoric looking. Love the big clusters of ferns. I think the clusters of fern work best when you kind of merge them into like a higher bit of elevation. So you get a bit more like some unique shapes with the ferns, like over here. And I love the smaller clusters of rocks as well. The new logs, they're really nice. The reeds look so good, but overall they look really good. I like this rock arch as well, very beautiful. And here's our pack of velociraptors wandering around. Overall, I just look at just looking at this screen alone, as we look from a top-down view at this habitat, and just the amount of new things we have compared to base game. If you showed this to me 2 years ago and you said this is what Jurassic World Evolution would be, thanks to modding and stuff, I would have been blown away. And I am blown away, because it's amazing work by incredibly skilled mod authors. And I look forward to keep showing off their work, because they really do incredible stuff. I follow the modding Discord servers and stuff like that, and I keep seeing the stuff they put out, and it's always mind-blowing. Such good stuff. Like, just here alone, it's incredible. So good. In the next episode, I think I will probably show off the Ichthyovenator mod. I never know how to pronounce dinosaurs with a venator at the end, like concavinator or concavinator or concavenator, you know, stuff like that. So Ichthyovenator or Ichthyovenator, whichever one. I'll be including that in the next episode likely, because it's incredible, very cool animal. I want to make a habitat for it, a very swampy one. Otherwise, we do have plenty of space to be building around here. We've got all this space up here, down here, and then of course that entire end of the park needs to be built up. And we can always expand around as we see fit. But that is all for today. I hope you've enjoyed that episode. I hope you've enjoyed seeing our raptors, our little dromaeosaurs. I really enjoyed building today's habitat. I know, of course, it's a longer video. I just was having a great time, and I didn't really want to stop building. So, like I've said before, this has always been one of my favorite games, with or without mods. And with mods, it's taken it to the next level, and I'm so happy to keep playing it. So, very pleased with how everything's been. Anyways, with that all out of the way, I hope you all liked the video. Do leave a like if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Give me any suggestions for future habitats and animals. Yeah, subscribe for more Jurassic World Evolution content. I upload videos every Friday at 5 PM UK time. And of course, I also upload other content, Planet Zoo every Wednesday at 5 PM UK time and Prehistoric Kingdom every Monday at 5 PM UK time. And with all that said, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!